Andy, it's live office hours Thursday. I love that you're all here with me. Today we're going to talk about how to answer job interview questions. It's a topic that I absolutely love. And by the end of this session, I'm going to teach you the backbone. You're going to get a great peek into the backbone of my job interviewing technique, which has helped my job candidates outperform other job seekers by 560%. I absolutely love it. But before we get into it, just a quick hello. I'm Andy LaCivita, award-winning author of The Hiring Prophecies and Interview Intervention, and I've made it my mission in life to help people succeed in their careers. And one of my favorite ways to do that is by offering these live office hours for you for free on Thursdays on my YouTube channel, so welcome. Now, I see you guys are getting into the chat. Hopefully the video's all working right now. Say hello, let me know where you're from, let me know what you do. If you got any questions, load them in there. Just put some question marks in the beginning of them so I can easily find it, because I'm going to teach for a little while, then I'll go to the Q&A. And I got some great goodies for you too. We'll talk about those at the end of the lesson, but I want to get into this right away, and I want to set the table. I want to set the table here before we dive into these 5 tips that I have for you on how to answer job interview questions. I want to set the table. I get a lot of emails from people who join my community, as well as people on my YouTube channel, who ask me, Andy, will you create a video for how to specifically answer behavioral interviewing questions? And I want all of you to know, I know there are a lot of different types of interviewing questions. I know behavioral interviewing questions are very popular. Don't worry about the type of question you're getting asked. Really, it's really not that important. You start thinking about, what type of question am I getting asked? Oh no, is it a behavioral interviewing question? Should I use the STAR technique and all this stuff? Don't worry about all that. It's very confusing. It's a lot of nonsense. 99% of the interviewers out there wouldn't know the difference between a STAR answer or a square or a cube or a triangle or whatever. And if you have no idea what I'm talking about, don't worry about that. Good. I don't want you to be concerned with this stuff. I have one caveat though on the type of question. We talked about a month or 6 weeks ago on this live office hours. I did a session called One Tip That Wins Every Job Interview. In that particular program, I talked about being able to diagnose whether the interviewer was asking about your past or your future. That was really it. Once you knew that, I wanted you to act accordingly. So I'm not going to go into all that today. You can go check that video out, and I put a link in the description below so you can easily access that if you want to look at it. But today, I want to keep things very simple. I want to give you one technique that you can use no matter what type of question it is. And I want you to think about what's happening in an interview. It's very simple. All the interviewers care about are 2 things. First, will this person be able to do the job effectively, and is she a good fit for the company? That's number 1. And second, do I like her? Is she likable? Do I want to work with her? That's it. That's it. Can you do the job, and do I like you? That's all the interviewers are trying to assess. That's really it. Let's not overly complicate that. So what I'm going to teach you today are 5 pointers on how to answer every question so that you are believable, likable, memorable, and you get the interviewer to care about you and act on your behalf so that they hire you as opposed to other qualified candidates. That's it. And the beauty of these 5 points are all of them can be prepared for in advance of the interview. So you do not need to do this on the fly. This is stuff you can, I don't love the word, but script, literally. So, I got my note cards. Let's go through these. We're gonna go through 5. Some of them we're gonna talk about a little more than others, but these are pretty fun. So speaking of, number 1, speaking of keeping things simple, first thing that you want to do whenever you answer any type of question in an interview is keep it short and simple. Keep it short and simple. So just think of keep it simple. And you might be thinking, well, Andy, geez, duh, that's so easy. What a simple concept. That's right, it is. But why is this hard to do? Why is this hard to do? Because everybody, for some reason or another, as soon as they get into a job interview, they've got this incredible urge to want to share everything about themselves and all their glory and all the things that they've done, all their accomplishments, and why they're super awesome. So I just want you to resist that urge, and I want you to make sure that when you're responding to the question that's being asked, and you're giving the details that are pertinent for that particular question. So number one, keep it short and simple. Number two, I was going ahead there. Number two, one thing that's very difficult to do is being able to capture and keep their attention. So capture and keep their attention. And this one here is tricky, because if you think for 1 minute that just because somebody is sitting across the table from you in a nice, quiet room, staring at you in the baby blues, that they're listening to you, you are sorely mistaken. I got news for you. You, unfortunately, in this situation, are somebody's midday distraction. It's okay. Doesn't make them a bad person. You're not a bad person. It's just the reality of job interviewing, because most of the time, virtually all of the time, you're sitting across the table from someone who is paid to do something other than interview you. So think about it. Companies, for all time and for all future time, need to get their employees to interview you, the ones that know the most about the job, to assess whether you can do the job. So they have to pull these people out of their day job in the middle of the afternoon or morning to meet with you. They've got projects, they've got bosses, they've got customers and teammates and deadlines. All of those are putting pressure on them, and those are only the things related to work. What if there's other things going on in their life? So it makes it very difficult for that person to be completely focused on you. So the second thing that you need to be able to do, in addition to keeping it short and simple, is you have to be able to get their attention, and once you get it, you need to be able to hold it. So what's the easiest way to get somebody's attention? Well, the easiest way to get somebody's attention is actually to break a pattern or be disruptive in some way. So the kind of the examples I always use are, if I start speaking Swahili right now, you'd notice it, right? Because, even if you kind of got me tuned around in the background, I know some of you, hopefully I'm on the big screen in your living rooms, but if I start speaking Swahili, you'd know it because I'm saying something and it sounds differently, and all of a sudden it's not what I'm expecting. The other one I always love to use is for anybody that still watches TV, regular TV, channel TV, real time. You're sitting in that comfy chair watching your favorite program, and commercial comes on. First thing you do is you're thinking about that snack. You get up out of the chair, you start walking to the kitchen, over to the refrigerator to get that snack. What do you hear? Immediately, you hear the commercial, and the commercial is much louder than the show was. Why is that? They have to amp it up because they have to say, hey, tap, tap, tap on the shoulder. Listen, you're not paying attention. I need you to watch and look at this so you can see my product so I can sell it to you. But that's a disruption. Now, I don't want you to go and yell and scream in the interview, and I certainly don't want you to speak Swahili. And I also promised that you'd be able to plan these in advance, and that's a little bit more on the fly, where you have to determine based on what you're talking about. So here are 3 tips I'll give you that you can basically, by the nature of the response you're going to give or the story you're going to tell, that you will inherently keep somebody's attention just by the nature of the content of what you're sharing with them. The first way to do that is if you have stories where you did something, it was the first time it was ever done. You literally were the pioneer who created something that had never been before. And you're telling a story about a project you did or something you built or something you designed. It's the first of its kind in the industry. It's the first of its kind in the market. It's the first of its kind for your company. It could be anything, but firsts, pioneers. People love pioneers, and it's exciting, right? You're going to tell me something I've never heard before, or you're going to tell it to me with a flair that I've never heard before. So the first thing is anything that you can do where you were the first. And I know some of you are out there probably thinking, well, Andy, geez, I'm 25 years old. I've been working for a few years. I'm still trying to get my corporate sea legs under me. That's okay. If you weren't the pioneer, talk about one of your firsts. People love firsts. So here was the first time I ever did this. And here were the challenges I noticed. Here's what I learned, and so on. Because the interviewer, it's human nature, they immediately identify with you and the first time that they went through something, how difficult it was, what they learned, how challenging, all that good stuff. So anytime you can say, this is the first time I went through this, and here's what I did, here's what I learned, and so on. They love that stuff. Those generally will keep their attention. The other option you can use, if you don't have a pioneer story, you don't have a first story, anytime that you can talk about mistakes. People love recovery stories. So interviewers recognize you're going to make mistakes. Everybody does. I've made a dozen already, and it's 11:11 this morning. That's okay. That's okay. Interviewers get that. What they want to know is, how did you respond? How did you recover? What did you do? Then ultimately, what was the outcome? And so that's a good one. Or also along those lines, anytime that you can talk about when you were about to make a mistake but caught it, or did something to mitigate the risk, or used the contingency plan, or something like that, that generally has suspense to it. So people normally will listen more closely. So you need to get their attention and you need to hold it. And those are 3 ways that you can do that. By thinking through the stories you're going to tell in advance. We'll talk a little bit more about this later at the end of the lesson on how to design those questions, how to anticipate those questions, how to design your answers, because I have some things that I'm going to give you that you can take. So that's the second thing. So you want to be able to capture and keep their attention. The third thing is, okay, you're keeping it short and simple. You've got their attention and you're keeping it, but you got to make sure that when you're talking, you're speaking their language. You're talking in their lingo. And I'm not just talking about the vocabulary. Why is this difficult? Why is this so difficult for people? The reason it's difficult to adjust your language is because if you are a pro at something, it's very, very difficult for you to remember what it was like not to know what you know. I can't remember what it was like not to know what to do in a job search or in a job interview, or how to write a resume, or how to decompose myself. All this stuff. It's difficult for me. So I am constantly having to challenge myself to put this in language you'll understand, because it's something that you don't do very often and it's very scary. So, for example, if you are a technologist and you get in the interview and you're talking to an HR person, you want to make sure that not only are you speaking in language you both can understand, but you're talking about topics you both care about. So with the HR person, you're unlikely to be speaking about lines of code, and you're probably going to be talking more about culture, people, the corporate values, and those kinds of things, maybe benefits and other stuff like that. But you want to make sure that you're adjusting the topics and the language, so your lines of questioning and all that good stuff, as well as when you're telling the person about yourself, that you're adjusting it to make sure that the highlights you're pointing to are something that they will identify with and relate to. On the other hand, if you're talking to somebody who's very senior and you're a technologist, you obviously don't want to be talking about, how you're a code jockey. You want to be talking about how what you do fits in the overall scheme of the corporate strategy and how what you do aligns with the corporate goals. Start talking at that level with that person. It'll go over a lot better. So you want to make sure you're talking in their language. That's number 3. Number 4. All right, now we're moving right along, right? It's simple. You got their attention. You guys are communicating. The language is there. But you need to get them to believe you and trust you that you can do the job effectively, and what you've done in your history has actually prepared you for this. So you need to make them believe you. You need to make them believe you. Now, why is this so difficult? Should be easy. But it's difficult because a lot of you are very experienced. You've got lots of stuff going on throughout your careers. Some of you have great projects that you'd like to discuss that you did 10 years ago, or 5 years ago, or even 2 years ago. Your memory's a little foggy. It's difficult to recollect the details. So the first thing, kind of step 0 here, is you got to make sure that you know your resume upside down. And if it's on the resume, you got to be prepared to discuss it in detail. So you need to think through all the things that are on your resume, because they're fair game. I don't care how long ago they were. You need to be prepared. The other thing is, if you open your mouth and you start talking about a project that isn't on your resume, that's okay, but you need to make sure you got the details and a commanding grasp of that. So how do you make them believe you? There's basically 3 simple tricks that you can use in the stories that you tell. Not really sure what happened there. Did I lose this? Oh, sorry folks, I got a little flash. I don't know if I cut out there or not, but I'm going to keep going. It looks like everything's okay. It looks like everything's okay. All right, so we're talking about making them believe you. Let me just recap. Not for me. I still see and hear everything. Okay, so I had to refresh. Yeah, actually, folks, I'm sorry about that. Just refresh if, just refresh. Just refresh. Okay, hang on. Let me just type that in there. Sorry about this. I'm not really sure what's going on. Refresh the page. Okay, sorry. All right, wait. So we're on Make Them Believe You. Hang on, I got to get my cards here. Make Them Believe You. 3 simple tricks. There's an organization to your story that you tell. So in getting somebody to believe you, you need to have a nice flow to your story. It's kind of like appetizer, main dish, dessert, or step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. There's a time-based sequence. There were events that occurred, and there was an outcome. That's the first thing. You want to make sure that your story has organization to it. Second thing is, if the organization of the story is step 1, step 2, step 3, you need to add details, very good details that talk about what you did in step 1. So here was step 1, here was the challenge, here's what I did, here's how I overcame it, here's what I learned, then I moved on to step 2, and so on. When you have details, that gives them color and it brings your story to life. And people who lived something, who've actually done it, they have those details at their command. They know it. That's why I say you got to go back and refresh yourself. Number three to here is to deliver the knockout punch. Add precision and statistics and be more precise about what you say. So here's what happens. If a project manager is sitting across from me and she says to me, well, Andy, you know what? This project was about a year and the budget was, somewhere between like 6 and 8 million. I can't remember the exact number. That doesn't sound nearly as good as, so I had this 14-month project. The budget was 7.4 million. The resources fluctuated from 10 people to 15 people throughout the project. And here's what I had to do. Boom, boom, boom. Or I'm a salesperson. I sold $254,000 in revenue that year. I sold about $250,000. That matters. Now, here's what's happening on the interviewer side. Interviewers, they don't remember $254,000. They don't remember 14 months or 7.4 million. They remember she was dressed well. The way she told her stories was so easy to follow. You know what? She was really specific. I remember that, very detail-oriented kind of person who's going to be on top of it. They remember how you made them feel and the simple breadcrumbs that they plant about you. Don't even worry about their scribbling. It doesn't make any difference. That's what they remember. So now you're communicating, you got their attention, and they're listening to you walk them through your story. Lost me again. Sorry, folks. It looks good here. I'm going to just say refresh. I hope that works. I'm seeing everything's okay, but refreshed. Okay, so you just want to make sure that you have organization to your story. You've got the details of what's happening each step along the way, and you're using as precise statistics as you can, if you have them, to leave them with the impression that you are organized, you have logic in the way you tell your stories, it's crisp, you're detailed, and so on. That's what the interviewer remembers. Now, you got all this and you're going on fine, but everybody in the interview process should be able to convince the interviewers that they're the right fit for the job and that they can do the job. Where you really can separate yourself is getting the interviewers to care about you and hiring you, and the best way you can do that is to show them that you care about them. And while I would like to think that all the interviewers in the corporate world or wherever are impartial and objective enough to hire the best person for the company, I really want you to sweeten the deal and make sure that you can show them how hiring you benefits them specifically. So what is the ultimate impact to them? So the 5th point is, I need you to get them to care about hiring you. And the people that care about hiring you are the ones that feel you care about them and that the hiring of you will genuinely benefit them. So how do you do that? How do you plan for that? Well, first thing that you need to realize is there's basically 3 types of people that you interview with. There's lots of different kinds, but basically I kind of put them into one of 3 buckets. And for purposes of your planning, you can put them into one of 3 buckets. They're either going to be senior to you, your boss, the senior people, the management team, those kind of folks, or somebody on your peer level, like your teammates, maybe other groups you're going to work with, partners, maybe customers, kind of that level. So it's really you're not reporting to them, you're not senior to them, you're not junior to them. And then there's the third bucket for those of you that are in managerial roles, people who you manage, so subordinates. So if you are interviewing with your boss or senior people, you want in your stories or in your questions even, you want to talk about how hiring you is going to benefit them. And the easiest way to do that for the senior people is, hey, Mrs. Boss Woman, hiring me, I'm going to be able to help you and relieve you of these administrative duties that you have, and that's going to free up your time to work on something more strategic. Or, hey, senior management people, I'm going to be able to optimize these processes and build you these programs and systems that's actually going to save us a lot of money, that's going to free up capital that we can reinvest into whatever, stuff like that. They know that that's going to benefit them because that's what's important to them. If it's somebody on your peer level, and we can go through a host of these examples, but just a simple one, if you're joining a 3-person team and there's only 2 people on the team, well, immediately upon you joining, you've helped them because you've taken the workload and the overtime off their plate, so you've made their lives easier. But you got to dig a little deeper than that, because that's just inherent. But do you know something? Do you have working knowledge of something that you can share with them? Could you cross-train each other? Could you have some lunch and learns, and you know this part of the infrastructure and I know that part of the infrastructure, and we can share with each other and benefit from having me and you on the same team? That kind of stuff. Or with the customers, how will you better support them? How will you make their lives easier? What kind of automation are you going to give them? Anything like that works. And then when you go to the junior people, if a lot of times when you're interviewing with companies, they will, if you're a senior person, they will allow you to interview with the team you'll be managing just to get to know them. How are you going to coach and inspire them? What are you going to do to motivate them? How are you going to help their careers grow? That kind of stuff gets them to care about you and hiring you. You ultimately need to make responses and generate these responses to get people to act on your behalf, which is ultimately to hire you because they believe you can do the job and they like you. So let's recap it real quick. We got short and simple, so keep the language tight. You got to capture and keep their attention, so you got to get it and hold it. Don't assume that you have it. Don't assume that you have it. Big mistake. Number 3, speak their language or talk in their lingo. Number 4, you got to get them to believe you. And number 5, you got to show them you care and get them to care about you. And I care about you. I care about you. I'm going to talk a little bit more about how we take this lesson to the next level. But if you're loving this, click the thumbs up button. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Because I'm going to be wrapping up the lesson here in a second. And it's 11:24. We're gonna go to 36 more minutes, so we've got some time. I got some great time for Q&A. If you are listening to this on any of the podcast platforms where it's released in the future, I'm letting you go here. And if you want more instruction and you want to know the goodies, you got to jump over to my YouTube channel and check out this live office hours video. Now, I've brought you all who are with me here in the chat. I brought you to you have the centerpiece of the backbone of the interviewing methodology that I use, but there's a lot of stuff that goes around this little heart of the matter in being able to respond to job interview questions. One thing that I have for you that's free that takes this down 2 levels. One level is a deeper understanding of these principles, all the things that go along with how to nail any kind of interview. Is I have recently reshot my 3 keys to ace any job interview webinar. That webinar was seen by more than 25,000 people last year. That's the 2017 version. You now have the 2018 version. That's in the, not thumbs down, but that's in the description. And everybody who attends that, you want to talk about behavioral interviewing questions, you want to talk about situational questions. I've created, I don't know if you have this book, Ace Your Job Interview, Master the Best Answers to the 14 Most Effective Job Interview Questions, is a sweet booklet I put together, magazine style. And what I've done is I've packaged up what I think are the 14 most effective job interview questions that employers should ask you. 43 variations of those questions, why they're asked, what the employer's looking for, and the very best responses. So to show you what this looks like, inside each page looks like this. Now if you'd see this, I know the print is a little light. It's kind of magazine, I got pictures of it. But you might be able to see, why would you leave your current employer? Or why did you leave your current employer? Or these alternate versions, take me through your progressions, your job changes. All of those are the same question. Then I show you here what the employer is evaluating. So I give you a qualitative assessment for each one of these questions, what the alternates are, and what the employer is evaluating. Then I give you some color commentary on the subject, on the question, and then I give you the sample answers. So, I got a whole bunch of these here. Describe a situation when you and a coworker disagreed. Describe an ambiguous situation, right, that you organized, resolved, or executed. That's a critical behavior interviewing question. Describe a situation where something went wrong. There's all kinds of goodies in here. How would your coworkers describe you? And basically, when you look at all of this, now the Mile Walk Academy students and other people who've grabbed this, I get tons of emails. They say, Andy, it was like the interviewer was reading off your booklet. There was not one question that they asked that wasn't in this booklet. Now, the one thing that I will say that is not in the booklet is your trade-specific questions. So these are the questions that if an employer effectively asks them, gets you talking in this manner, they're going to know 80-85% about what they need to know about hiring you. The other 15 to 20% is your specific job. They have to ask you how you sell. They have to ask you how you market. They have to ask you how you build that technology. So those are the trade-specific skills. But if you take today's lesson, watch the webinar, the links are in the description, and you grab this free ebook. I give you the free ebook for the webinar, along with a workbook to follow along. It's totally cool. You will be in great shape. So I hope you love that. 207 people on here, 28 minutes and 45 seconds, assuming that all of that was good time for everybody. I want to go to the chat. I want to take a look, and I want to get in as many questions answered as I can in the next 30 minutes. And I'm hoping I got it. Let me take a quick sip. Everything looks good. Folks, I know we had a couple of little blips there. If you see the video cut out, I don't know what that is. I've got great internet stream health going. But if that happens, just refresh, and I'm just going to keep going. All right, I think I lost some of the chat, but I think I do. I see where I said, hey, it's great to see y'all shuffling in, and I love Thursdays. Tuesday used to be my favorite day of the week because that's the day the weekly Tips for Work and Life email comes out, which I love sharing the lessons with everybody, but now being here live with you is awesome. It's the most awesome thing ever. I can't believe I didn't start doing these a long time ago. Okay, Project Diva, I think, is number one. Kara, let me know if that's not the case. When applying online, I am prompted to enter desired salary, and I think her question is choose a median salary. And I see that question a lot. The one thing that you want to do, Project Diva, is definitely check out my live office hours that I did a couple weeks ago called Why You Don't Get Paid What You Deserve. It starts with that very act. From the time you fill in your app to the time you negotiate your counter offer, your final offer through your counter offer, don't be concerned about desired salary. There isn't any employer in the world that's going to hold you to that. What you can don't go way high. Don't do that. You might price yourself out. You will never thread the needle. So here's what I recommend. If it's an open field, put open or negotiable. If it's a fill in the blank kind of field. If it is a required field and it's open, an open field meaning text, then put open or negotiable. That's okay. If it is a required field and it is a drop down, meaning I earn 40,000 to 44,999, then 45,000 to 49,999, and you have to pick one. Just pick your current salary. Just pick your current salary. Don't worry about it. You are going to get in there, and the first thing they're going to ask you is confirm all that, and then I teach you how to take it every step of the way from the initial discussion with the recruiter all the way to the counter, what you should do at each stage in order to get paid the most amount of money and make sure that actually you get paid what you're worth. So don't do that. I think I saw somebody say go as high as you could. You run a risk there of pricing yourself out. You really do. And it depends. In some states in the U.S. and obviously in some countries, other countries, you can't even ask what you earn and all that good stuff. So, but I would just go with what you are currently earning. All right, Merv is saying, Lisa Chamberlain, I think that's Dawn. Salary is a concern for me as well. Between Boston and New Hampshire, the range can be as much. Yeah, and where you live, you need to make sure if you're relocating that you're accounting for that. And if you live in like the New York metro area or any of the surrounding areas, to go from town to town and city to city, it can fluctuate huge. I'm the real Rebel Juice. Good to see you, Merv. Project Diva again. Project Diva, how can I find a good recruiter to represent me? Can't seem to get an interview. Been out for 2 years taking care of an ill father. Have 20 years of experience in IT, but no one will represent me. And the reason, Project Diva, that no one will represent you is because recruiters do not work for individuals. Recruiters represent organizations. Recruiters find people for jobs. They do not find jobs for people. That's why they do not call you back. Do not make working with recruiters a big part of your job search. And especially if you've got 20 years of IT experience, I also recommend, Project Diva, that you watch my live office hours on why my job search is taking so long, because in that, don't get overly concerned about the titles I use, but in that live office hours, I break down how you should allocate your time and what percentage of your time you should spend doing which activities based on statistical data that tells me the likelihood you as a 20-year IT vet will have finding your next job. And you have a 46% chance of finding your job through your network, through somebody you know or somebody they know. Do not spend a lot of time trying to find a recruiter to represent you. There's no problem with you fielding recruiters' calls who are emailing you and calling you. Just don't make it a big part of your proactive efforts to try to find one. All right. Fawn, good luck tomorrow. Good luck tomorrow. Can you talk about what to wear in an interview? I think suits might be overkill. What do you think? You know what? It's Fawn. It's a great question. And here's what I recommend. If you have not been instructed, meaning they have not given you direction on what to wear a suit. If you are a man, go full suit. Go full suit and tie. If you are a woman, then a business suit with either pants or skirt is okay. But I am a fan of wearing full business attire unless you are otherwise instructed. I don't care if they're wearing jeans and flip-flops or cut-off shorts. You don't know that, and you run the risk. Now, if you go in a suit, that's okay. They're not going to hold that against you. If you don't go in a suit and they inspected you to do that, you're going to get dinged. If you are there and they say, hey, this is great, we'd love to bring you back. Next time you come, loosen it up. That's cool. Then do that. But I always recommend you dress to the nines. Sunday best. All right. Julio, hey, bud, how you doing? More of a productivity question. What to ask from peers and bosses when you leave a job. I'm not sure like what you mean, what to ask from peers and bosses. Are you talking about feedback or if they'll serve as a reference? I'm not sure, Julio, if you can zip to the bottom, ask me your question or clarify, and I'll have Kara slack it to me. Kara's got the wrench. She can slack it to me, and then I will get back to answer that if there's additional color there. Roxa, hopefully you refreshed. Jennifer, Matthew, how are you? Hope you're doing well. All right. Hi, Andy. I was once asked in an interview how I would handle implementing change to younger millennial workers. I am older, experienced worker. Okay. So I think obviously what they're trying to get at is, there's companies that have a predominance. And by the way, I don't know the demographic of this particular company. Companies generally have, they have a cultural feel. Some companies that are upstarts that have a lower number of people could be predominantly filled with those from a particular age bracket. Sometimes you get the startups that are filled with the seasoned people because they're starting up the company. They know what they're doing. They've got some partnerships going. They want to build it. And then they start hiring people at different levels. Other times you've got organizations that hire a lot of younger folks, or in this case, millennials they're not so young anymore. I mean, they've got some years of experience under their belt. I think what they're getting at is if you are an older worker, what you're really fighting in terms of age is not an age bias. What you're ultimately fighting is the stereotypes that go along with the fact that you are an older worker. And those stereotypes are things like, you're not on the current edge of things. You are set in your ways. Those kinds of things. You don't want to learn anything new, that kind of stuff. Now, I'm assuming that that's not true about you. That's really what you need to overcome. So any type of question that you get, whether it's something like implementing change and working with people of different generations, or how you do this particular job, it makes no difference. You need to overcome that by showing high energy, by the stories you tell, talking about current stuff, expressing the fact that you love learning and that you want to do, you want to learn new things. Now, implementing change for younger workers, my answer to that question specifically would be, if I need to get somebody to change what they're doing, how they're doing, and so forth, they need to see the benefit of making that change, the rationale, and how it will affect them. So whatever it is that I need to show these millennials is I need to explain to them why this is important, what's going to result as a means of this happening, and why it's beneficial for them particularly to do it, and how they will benefit. So just going back about item number 5 in the lesson we just talked about, getting them to care, that's one of the biggest things. That if you can say, look, I can explain the rationale, I will work with them to understand, and I will look at their viewpoint and channel that in because you're the wiser, more experienced individual, and I will also explain to them how it's going to affect them positively to make these changes. That's how I would answer that. All right, I think, so Jennifer, I hope that helps. And then Kara is letting me know that Julio had clarified and was asking what I did well and my biggest mistakes and what I should improve on. And Julio, I don't know that I could have said it better myself. I would ask my peers and my bosses actually, for that kind of feedback specifically, but also you want to make sure that you take away from them, in addition to that feedback, what you did well and how it changed them. So how did working with you impact them and their departments? Because, and I talk a lot about this, about my career achievements journal. If you don't have my career achievements journal, you should grab it, and it's in different places, but you could Google LaCivita Career Achievements Journal, you'll find it. And there's 14 points that and pieces of insight that you should gather on every project that you work on. This is an awesome tool for you folks as you're recollecting your stories and you're thinking back to your resume and the stories and the projects and so forth. This is the type of detail I was alluding to when I said you got to have details, and here's what I did and here's what the challenges were and so forth. Julio, if you grab that journal, and you probably have it because I know you're in the boot camp, but if you don't, grab that journal and use that and talk with your peers and your seniors and all that good stuff, and try to collect some of that information as it related to working with them. And I think that would help too. Paul, good to see you. Starcorge, hey, Buffalo, hope it's not too cold there. All right. Ingrid, how are you? Boot camper, Julio boot camper, love it, love it. Hang on, not sure why. Hey, Starcord, Kirthi, Dave's on the, great. Linda LaCivita and the Hilltop Elementary School is with us. Hi, all you Hilltoppers. My wife, Linda, if you probably know, is a third grade teacher, and hopefully you and all the kids are watching. Honey, it's, 41:30 if you want to fast forward if you're not listening to me. Okay. All is well. Lisa, good. Blue Diver, Triage. Merv, yes, Linda is my wife, who I love, who's my human treasure. All right. And she's telling me I'm good, babe. Thank you, honey. Carl Klaus Productions. Hey. I know. And Carl Klaus, I think you're around the corner from me. All right. Dominic D'Souza, you are still sitting a low lie. Yes, wifey here. Carla. Hi, Mr. LaCivita. It's Carla again. Good to see you, Carla. I'm scheduled to attend an upcoming job fair for a premier employer. Aside from the resume, best foot forward, and business cards, what would you recommend? Carla, I would recommend you watch my video on my YouTube channel or my blog called What to Do with Your 5 Minutes at a Job Fair. Basically, with the few minutes you have to engage, attract, and make them want to pick you for further discussions, I have a career fair video on my YouTube channel. Folks, if you have any kind of niche-y question, if you go to my blog at andrewlacivita.com and you just type it in there, you're a military veteran, you are a stay-at-home mom, or you've had a work absence. I think somebody mentioned she was taking care of her father. Anything that you can think of. I have a video, an article, a podcast, a booklet, or whatever. It's out there. Just go search at andrewlacivita.com and you will find it. There's 400 posts on my blog, so I've probably covered it. Hey, if you're loving it, hit the thumbs up. For all that stuff that I give you guys, I love sharing it. I like to give it to you for free. I want my free stuff to be better than other trainers' paid stuff, so I hope you're enjoying it. Give me a thumbs up if you're loving it. All right, Anne Mary Joseph. Oh, hey, Joan. Wait, hey, Joan. Joan is a Mile Walk Academyer. Good to see you. Anne Mary Joseph. Hello from London, my favorite city ever. Timothy Vick. Refresh the link. Okay. Jessica Suarez. Good to see you. All right. Randy Milken. Great to see you. Boot camper. Hey, all you boot campers, man. Put Pound Boot Camper next to your name. A lot of boot campers here. All right, Roxa, Timothy. Arpi from Hungary, great to see you. Lori, good to see you. Okay. Emilia. Emilia is my mom. That's Mom LaCivita, folks. It's an all-in-the-family kind of thing. All right, Nate from Notaga from South Africa. Nate from Colorado Springs. Jessica, I know I'm always jealous when I see that you're from LA. You probably got great weather. Leslie from New Jersey. Wilma. Hey, Wilma. Hope you're doing... Wilma Armstrong, boot camper. Hope you got my resume review and enjoyed it. You should have got that yesterday or the day before. How do you approach an interview with 2 senior managers that I'll be reporting to? Wilma, I would say everything that we talked about in this session, especially that item number 5, making sure you show them how your hiring you is going to benefit them. Session 4 of the boot camp has all the interviewing stuff for you. So that's how I would approach that. Paul, does that mean avoid narratives? I'm wondering if you mean and I'm not sure when you typed that in. Let me see. You typed that in at 11:06. I'm trying to think what I was doing at 11:06, but I'm assuming you mean like when I said keep it short and simple. But yes. Robert Tatum, great to see you. Chrissy D, Southern Jersey. Rick Perlacki, great to talk to you yesterday. I hope that helped. I like the note cards too. Wilma is asking, and I love this question, Is it better to go in the interview in the morning or afternoon? And which is better, Friday or Monday? So everything depends, but here's a few rules of thumb. When I have if given, and by the way, you don't always have choices. If it's my first interview with the company, I want it in the morning because that is people are fresher. There's a lower likelihood that something went wrong. So like to give you a funny, as a recruiter, when we recruit, so companies hire me at Mile Walk, which is my recruitment firm. When we recruit job candidates, we call and market our services to employers in the morning when their day hasn't gone south yet and they're fresh and polite. I prefer to call job candidates later in the day, in the afternoon, when I let the day go on where something has probably gone wrong and they're bummed about their job. It's the same kind of thing. When you're interviewing, if you are interviewing and you're early in the process, I like the mornings only because people generally are fresher. They can basically see a little better. They're more alert. They're more engaging. If you continue on in the process and you already are building up a good reputation as a good star, and the interviewing process gets longer or the time that you're spending increases, I generally like to go later in the day so that I can take up more time to run out the day with them, because I want to make sure that I could go as long as possible. A lot of times, especially for me with the executives that we deal with, the job candidates, we try to schedule a lot of those sessions where we know they could potentially run long later in the day, so there's some latitude there and there's freedom. These are just a couple tidbits, so it's not always, and Fridays, I think I need to refresh. Hang on. I needed to refresh, folks. There we go. And now I need to go back and try to find Wilma again. Sorry about this. I don't know what's wrong with the feed. Just trying to get back to I think I lost it. Kara, just so you know, I had to refresh, and for whatever reason, I lost the chat, and I'm now at Shaikh's. At 11:29, and but I lost anything above that. I lost anything above 11:29. So Wilma, I hope that helps. Just to kind of give you a rule of thumb. Monday or Friday, though. With Monday or Friday, those are not. Neither of those are really great because Monday is totally chaotic, and Friday. If you're doing it Friday afternoon, people are tired. So Friday morning's probably okay. So it's, but there's, it's a lot of nuances. All right. Hey, let me see. I see Maria Rizzo. Great time. Timothy Vick. Good morning. I have an interview this morning. Oh, you have an interview this morning with a Tractor Supply store for a retail position, but I'm scheduled to start trucking school next month. Should I tell them? Yes, definitely tell them. Open and honest. Chad, on my way. Kara's telling me I missed a question here from Randy Milliken. Do you recommend to have a list of stories and organize each story? Yes, Randy, that's a great one. Randy's question, do you recommend to have a list of stories and organize each story to be ready for interviews? Absolutely. That's what I'm talking about. Script your stories so that if you get that, and Randy, you have the Ace Your Job Interview booklet and a whole bunch more in your training because you're a boot camper. But yes, that's what I would do. I would make sure my resume's in order. I would use the interviewing instruction I gave you, and then I would use the Ace Your Job Interview book. Use this guy to prepare. Remember, this booklet, folks, has 43 questions, not just the 14, but these 14 serve as a backbone to the 43. They're all the same questions. They're just disguised. So you look at them and say, okay, well, if I get asked this question, then I'm going to go with this story. If I get asked this question, I'm going to go with this story. That's what I mean. You should be that prepared and know which pieces of content you need to include in your stories. It's really very, very, very powerful. Okay, Kara is slacking me like crazy because apparently my refresh caused me to miss a bunch of questions. All right, A.M. Carla Stokes. In answering interview questions, I have coached others to respond using the STAR approach. Is this an approved approach per your coaching style? Carla, I would use what I'm telling you today. Situation, task, action, result. I mean, all of that is embodied in what I was telling you about in step 4, the organization to your story. But I think it's very hard to layer on top all these other things to think about. So just make sure your story has a beginning, a middle, and an end. You talk about the insights in there, what happened, what you did, and what the outcome was. That's it. Okay. Let me see. Pansy, Slack, Fust. Sorry, folks. Andrew, how do I handle someone who has a problem with people who speak with an international accent? You know what? That is a very difficult one. It's I don't know if you are the one with the accent or if it's the people you're interviewing with who have the accent, but it's a very, very difficult thing. You just need to got to try to enunciate as best that you can. It's unfortunate, but for me, this is me personally, because whenever I'm interviewing somebody who has an accent, what I always think about when I'm interviewing, I mean this from the bottom of my heart, and this is something I'm guessing that this is rare, but this is how I think. If you have an accent and you're speaking to me in English, the one thing that I know is you likely speak 2 languages or more. I speak only 1 language. And so I'm always giving that person the benefit of the doubt because I really want to understand what they know, even if I'm having a little bit of a hard time understanding them. So, where I run into trouble isn't necessarily with the accent itself, but if I'm on the phone with somebody and that person has a thick accent and they're speaking in a very soft voice, that's more difficult. If they can raise their voice and I can hear them clearly, I'm usually pretty good, but it's unfortunate. It really is. All right, let me see. All right, wait. So Carla, I got another one here. In answering interview questions, I have, I think I got that one. Carolina Vallejo. Hi, Andy. Do you have any advice when interviewing with an employment agency? With an employment agency, that's a little different. Employment agencies are usually working on behalf of organizations and individuals, and they're trying to get you into the right spot. I would say in addition to, if they're asking you about your background, you're certainly welcome to use the techniques we talked about today. But the one thing that I would definitely do with employment agencies is you want to make sure you're giving them all your requirements. So what's a really good match for you? Because you don't want them coming back to you with crazy stuff. So that's the one thing that I would do with them. And then let's see. Chrissy D. Hey back, Chrissy D. She says, hello, Andy. I am a nervous interviewer. Can you please give me some tips to help calm me down? Chrissy D. And everybody else, any of you that are nervous, I have a video. It's a vlog style video on YouTube. It's job interview confidence and what you can do to not be nervous. So just look for my job interview confidence video. It's probably 5 to 10 minutes because it's a shorter packaged studio style one, but I think that will hugely help. And let's see, I think I got, that's Chrissy, Shaikh. How to impress employer with our questions. Okay, Shaikh and everybody else, I also have a video, my top 5 questions to ask in a job interview. That one is an absolute home run. I get emails about it every single day from people who use those questions, and they all say the same thing. The employer was blown away, said, nobody asks me these kind of questions. They were very impressed. Those are the ones that I would start with. And the second thing that I would do is the 3 Keys to Ace Any Job Interview webinar. That webinar is also, I instruct about how to ask job questions, interview questions. So check that out, because there's a whole section in that free webinar I mentioned at the end of the instruction part of this session. It'll teach you how to actually ask the questions, and then that video will give you 5, and there's loads more that I have out there. Okay, let's see. Torre, how do I answer the question, why do you want to change industry, and how do you think you can do this job? So first thing is, those are two different questions. So when folks, for all you career changers, whenever you get a question about why do you want to change, the response has to go a little something like this. I've really done some deep assessment and analysis of myself, and I went through a process where I was literally uncovering the things that drive my happiness and what I want to do and where my passion is and what I'm good at and all that good stuff. That process, and you can walk them through the process, led me to choose this industry. So you have to explain to them that there was a protocol behind you making this decision, that you're not just doing it on a whim. Okay, so there's steps that you go through. Torre, for you, I outline the steps in the beginning portion. You're a Mile Walk Academy, you're in the interview intervention course. The first 6 or 7 videos of the interview intervention course are related to what I'm speaking about specifically, what those steps are. So if you watch the self-awareness section, which is the first section is a bonus in that interviewing course, that's what I'm talking about. That process is what gives you the answers that helped you determine that you wanted to make the change. So you have to explain to the interviewer that you went through this thoughtfully. The second part of your question is, how do I show them that you can do the job? Well, the first thing that you need to do is know what capabilities are required to do the job effectively and what skills, and then you need to map what you've done historically and how that has positioned you to do the new job. So, I don't know what your function is, but if you're switching and you're doing something and you want to become a salesperson, I always say, okay, well, what capabilities make a good salesperson? You got to have good influencing skills. You have to be articulate. You need to be able to listen. You need to be able to troubleshoot the business problems, right? There's a lot of psychological components, and, all of that good stuff. There's an organizational component to it, and making sure that you're staying on top of following up with your prospects and so forth. So you look for where you've done and built those kind of capabilities in your background. And when you're asked to tell about situations that have prepared you to make this change into sales or whatever it is, then you map your capabilities of your history to what you need going forward. And you could find those out very easily. I mean, you can do simple Google searches to discover those. But that's how I would handle that. Okay, let's see, where am I now? Amstu Riki, I think that is. Interviewing on Tuesday with someone younger than me. Any tips? Next one. Okay. Any tips? So how much younger? So there's a huge difference when, I'm 51 and I'm interviewing with somebody who's, say, 45, which is not that big a deal. If I'm interviewing with somebody, and I don't know how old you are, who is, say, 27, who's interviewing me, and I'm going to report to them, that's a totally different situation. So for me, I mean this in all sincerity, I try to ignore the age issue. There's a reason that you're interviewing with somebody in that position who's younger than you are. Assume that person has the goods, and I would use all the interviewing tactics that I gave you today about how to respond and all that good stuff. But you got to remember, you got to get that person to understand how hiring you benefits him or her. And simple fact of the matter is that, the age should not play a part, just like you don't want people discriminating against older workers. So I would say I would use the techniques I gave you today, but I would probably make sure that if there's a substantial age difference, then you are showing your energy. I would also recommend checking out my age discrimination video about the 3 tips that and the biases that you really need to overcome if there's a huge age gap there. You need to make sure that your energy's high. You need to make sure that your stories are filled with current edge or cutting edge solutions. If you're talking about something that's 15 years old and you're not current, that's not a good thing. And you need to express that you're very interested in learning the latest and newest things, that you're constantly in that mode. So, but I would check that out. And here again, without knowing, I would focus on that. All right, Kara is telling me I'm in order now, and I have the chat back. Okay, let's see. I think Timothy Vick, I answered your question. Folks, are you loving this? It's 12:01. I'm going to go another few minutes because we had a few glitches there with the stream. I don't know what was wrong. But if you're loving this, hit the thumbs up. Make sure you're subscribed. Share away. YouTube loves that when there's action on the video. And let me see. I got a couple of sunny things here. Chad's on his way to an interview in Columbus. Good luck, buddy. Charmaine, very clear on your presentation. Thank you so much, Charmaine. Love having you. TDBR, TK, doctor. How to convince an employer to sponsor work visa for Canada. That, by the way, all of you sponsorship folks, it obviously comes with an expense. The only way to convince somebody to actually pay for that is to show them that you're well worth it. So you've got to make sure that your stories have that kind of power. It's a matter of cost. It's just like relocating somebody across the country. And let's see, Anne Mary Joseph from London, if I remember, how to answer technical questions of jobs I did 10 years ago. You got to go back and refresh, and it doesn't matter if you're talking about stuff that you've done and they're testing your freshness of your ability to develop software or design it or whatever. My recommendation is you need to go back and refresh on those techniques. I mean, there's no other way around it. John Husser, another boot camper. Great to see you. 11:30, half hour late. It's okay. You got in time for the Q&A. I learned more from you. Hey, Stu Riki, thank you for that. Stu says, I learn more from you than any other pundits. I love it. Well, you know what? You got to get in here and engage. I love it. I love being here with you all, you, Stu, and everybody else. It's, I love this stuff. I love engaging with it, with you. I say this every week. I decided earlier in the year to do this every week. This is fun. I love doing it. I want to help you on a deeper level. And you all are making me a better coach. You're keeping me in touch with the issues you're facing, the stuff you're struggling with. The world is constantly changing. The ways organizations are interviewing you is changing. And you're a great source for me for help. So I'm getting something out of this too. But I appreciate that. And I do my best to go as deep as possible with my free stuff. And for those of you that can afford to jump into the Mile Walk Academy, we go deeper on the, because I can teach at a deeper level because you're enrolling. But I love the whole community in doing this. I really do. All right. Let's see. Let me pick a couple here. Oh, I'm going to try to get a couple in really quick. I'm picking and choosing here. Steve Gray, I have a Skype interview for an upper management position. How should I dress? Golf shirt or dress shirt? Steve, my recommendation is dress up. You don't need to go totally over the top. You could wear a tie if you wanted to. Make sure, because most of you folks that do these video interviews, here's a couple things that you need to keep in mind. Videoing is becoming much more important. I was just talking to Rick Perlacki yesterday about how he did one. A lot of my boot campers have these. I know this is very popular where they're doing it on Skype or Google Hangouts or whatever. Some of them have their own platform. Here's what you need to do in a video interview. First thing is you want to dress like you were going into the interview. Get in a good place where there's not a lot of distraction in the background. It could be your house. It should be your house or wherever. Is some place comfortable. Totally cool. You want to make sure that the light is out in front of you and that the light is there facing you, not that the light is behind you. See, like that sunroom behind me, that creates havoc, but I have lights in front of me that are balancing all that out. You probably don't have that. So what you would want to do is you'd want to get in a room like that, put your camera or your webcam or your computer cam or your FaceTime cam or whatever, point it at you, pointing this way. And then what you want to do is you want to make sure you practice talking to a camera. If you can actually talk to the lens as opposed to doing this, like that, people are talking, they're going like this, it'll really separate you. So they're in the camera, they're not on the screen. So that you need to remember that. These are all subtle little things. And if you're an executive, you should be able to handle this. And I'm telling you, they're going to love it. They're going to love it. It's really, these are just, just some little tips and tricks that that really, really help. And if you can't, with the light and all that, that's okay. But do your best to have some kind of light on the opposite side of the camera that you're using, or the whatever the, if it's the camera eye of the computer or whatever. Okay. Okay. Dominic D'Souza, what would it be ideal to rehearse the interview question? Tell me about yourself, Dominic, and everybody else. Yes, it would. And I did a whole live office hours session on this, and I have a very popular video on YouTube and on my blog that's the Tell Me About Yourself Best Way to Respond. Best way to respond. It's got 500,000 views. It's a good thing to rehearse. But and actually the other one I would toss in there that's really good to rehearse is the Walk Me Through Your Resume. And I got a video for that, and it's out there, so check it out. All right, let me take another one here. You're welcome. Lisa Chamberlain goes by Dawn. Wonderful. Terry King. This is an interesting one. What is the best way to answer questions where it's obvious the interviewer wants to hear your specific answers and you feel they are stealing your ideas? Terry, don't worry about it. Go ahead and do it anyway. Cassie's here. Oh, Cassie, another boot camper. And Cassie's on her way, and she's down to the end. She had 2 interviews that went well. The CEO wants to meet tomorrow to discuss what success looks like and clarify my additional expectations. What does this mean? Cassie, don't overthink it. This step, folks, this is a very, very key thing. A little 10 minutes ago or whatever, I said something about watching my video about my top 5 questions to ask in a job interview. One of those questions is, if you were to give me a job offer and I was to accept it, a year from now, what specifically will I have done that constitutes success? What constitutes success a year from now? What that does is it gives clarity that for the job candidate, that the employer actually specifically knows what success looks like. You do not want to take a job where there is not clarity around what success looks like. For you, what it does is it gives you that clarity, but what it also does, even more importantly, is now you can spend some time in the interview specifically covering how you would accomplish that. And what the employer is doing, or whoever's interviewing you, is literally envisioning, oh my God, this is what Cassie would do. I can see her doing the job. I know she's got the goods, and so on. So when you say, what does this mean? I don't read anything into that. And this is a wonderful step to make sure that you have clarity, you know what's expected, they know you can do it. He's probably just being careful to make sure for your benefit, would be my guess. And when you get that out and on the table and you discuss it, now you also have more leverage to know what you can ask for in the way of compensation, because you want your compensation, most importantly, to dial up to what it is that you're being asked to do and the value you're going to contribute. It has nothing to do with what you used to make. It has everything to do with the value you're going to contribute and what they're getting when they buy you, basically. So no, I think you're good. I think, Cassie, you might have added that to the training portal, and if I think it's the same question, I'm just going to refer you to this. Hopefully you're still here. Let me answer Roxa's. If a potential employer says your resume was the best I've ever seen and your interview was the best I've ever had, is that bogus? Sounds suspicious to me. I don't know what the outcome was, that certainly could be the case. I don't see any reason why you can't have the best resume and you can't have interviewed the best. So I wouldn't worry about that. All right, let me see one more here. Okay, this is a great one. I'm going to end on this one. Robert Tatum. Should the tips that you have given us be used to prepare for phone screening interviews as well? I've had several of those lately that I prepared for in advance but did not receive a job offer. Robert, yes. Folks, every technique I gave you today, every tip that rolls together to basically craft a story or a response that makes you believable, likable, memorable, and so on, should be used across the board. I don't care if you're having a cup of coffee with the employer. I don't care if it's a video interview. I don't care if it's a phone screen. You're in a group interview, one-on-one interview. It makes no difference. This is about telling your stories in a manner that gets the employer to see your fit, your value, that you have the experience or you're positioned effectively to do the job effectively, and they like you and they want to act on your behalf. That's ultimately what you need. Can you do the job, and do I like you? All those principles I gave you today, it stays in line with that. So yes. All right, folks, it's 12:12. I've got to roll. This video will be available to you in a few minutes. YouTube automatically records it. It will be available. And I don't know if I have to do any editing because there was that little stuff in the beginning where we had some trouble. But I love having you. Thank you for coming. And if you enjoyed this, share it out into the world. Give me the thumbs up click the thumbs up button. Make sure to be subscribed. I'm back next Thursday. So I hope to see you there. And for those of you that are on my Tips for Work and Life subscription list, you'll get your Tuesday email, and you'll also get some notifications about some great additional new webinars and other things that are coming out. But check out that 3 Keys to Ace Any Job Interview so you can get that coaching at a deeper level, and you can get the Ace Your Job Interview ebook. All right, until next Thursday, have a great one. See you soon.